To me, being accountable is saying, here's explanation for my behavior, but I'm going to own everything that I did and apologize deeply to everyone. And then I will have to just show you through my actions. The same way I showed you through my words and actions that I was unwell, I have to now show you through my words and actions. Sustained, repeated, consistent behavior change. I'm also saying, don't phrase things in a way that creates distance between you and the harm you caused. It doesn't matter if you say you don't remember. This has been going on since 2003. It's 2026. And you're not existing in a vacuum. You're not alone on an island.
Unsolicited Perspectives Podcast. Episode clip.
I think first, to talk about this responsively, you have to start with what bipolar I actually is. So just a little note, I am not a mental health professional. So this is just my own research. I'm sure that there's probably nuance that I'm going to miss, and I might phrase things incorrectly, so please have some grace. So bipolar I disorder is defined by at least one full manic episode. And so what I want to make clear is that mania is not creativity, it's not energy, it's not eccentricity. It is a medical state where mood becomes abnormally elevated or intensely irritable, energy increases dramatically, sleep becomes unnecessary, thoughts race, speech speeds up, judgment breaks down. In some cases, the person loses touch with reality through delusions and paranoia. And these episodes can last at least a week and sometimes require hospitalization. They can disrupt work, relationships, and a person's ability to function in the world. And so depression can come, because they talk about bipolars, that you're at both poles, right? So depression may come before or after, but really it's the mania that defines the disorder. So the causes of bipolar I are not fully understood, but researchers believe it's a combination of genetics, brain chemistry, environmental stress, and life events. So traumatic brain injuries, which is what I'm assuming that Kanye is implying he sustained in his 2002 car accident, are considered a risk factor for mood disorders. It can disrupt the brain networks involved in emotional regulation and sometimes lead to what clinicians call secondary mania, which can resemble bipolar symptoms, but it's not the same as primary bipolar disorder. So most people with bipolar disorder have never had a TBI, a traumatic brain injury. And most people with a TBI will never develop bipolar symptoms. So that distinction matters. And I go through all of that context, one, because I think it's important when we talk about what he wrote here. When someone is manic, they can appear confident, charismatic, convinced they're seeing the world more clearly than everyone else. They may feel powerful, certain, unstoppable. They may make impulsive decisions, say reckless things, and sincerely believe they're right while losing their grip on reality. So I wanted to talk about, give a little timeline to also give some context to this.
Okay.
So the car accident Kanye was in 2002. That's where he claimed there was neurological damage that went untreated. Reporting from Rolling Stone indicates as far back as 2003, he was already bringing up Nazis and Hitler in conversations. In 2016, he was formally diagnosed with bipolar disorder. That same year, he publicly defended Bill Cosby amid dozens of sexual assault allegations. In 2018, he said he stopped taking his bipolar medication because he believed it negatively affected his creativity. So he's known he's been bipolar for quite some time, and he chose to stop treatment. in 2018. By 2022, his behavior escalated dramatically. He wore a, quote, White Lives Matter shirt at Paris Fashion Week and claimed Black Lives Matter was a scam. He suggested his bipolar diagnosis was a misdiagnosis from a Jewish doctor and that he was actually autistic instead. In December of that year, during an interview on InfoWars, he openly praised Hitler, denied the Holocaust, and declared himself a Nazi. So these are not offhand comments. What I'm trying to illustrate is that these are not all of the things that he has said and done up until this point. This is just some of the things, right? They are explicit, repeated, sustained. So that's what I want to make clear. In 2023, he says the neurological damage from his accident was finally diagnosed. In early 2025, he describes entering a 4-month manic episode. During this time, he posted extended anti-Semitic tirades on social media, sold merchandise featuring swastikas, ran a Super Bowl ad that directed viewers to a site selling Nazi symbolism, released songs referencing Hitler, wore KKK-inspired clothing, collaborated with known white supremacists, and used Nazi imagery in album art and branding. He apologized, then reversed course, then apologized again, then doubled down again, and then later in 2025, he had that meeting with an Orthodox rabbi. He expressed remorse. Some people saw that as meaningful. Others questioned whether it was just image repair, which I guess you can make that. You could probably make that same statement with this letter, right? So then he releases the letter. And in this letter, Kanye attributes much of his behavior to undiagnosed frontal lobe injury and bipolar I disorder. He describes mania as persuasive, sometimes that something that convinces you that you don't need help. He writes about, quote, disconnected moments he can't remember. He says that in a fractured state, he gravitated towards the swastika as the most destructive symbol he could find. And this is where this apology starts to become difficult to sit with.
Okay.
He never explained why that symbol. You gravitated toward the most destructive symbol you could find. Why? Why?
Well,
and
he does. Go ahead.
He never directly apologizes to the Jewish community. He apologizes to the Black community, but he never directly apologizes in this letter to the Jewish community. He just says, I love Jewish people, and I'm not an anti-Semite. He emphasized. Go ahead.
Okay. So I hear everything that you're saying. I hear everything you're saying, and you know me, gotta play devil's advocate. When I saw the headline for the apology, I said, let me read this thing. As I'm reading it, I'm like, okay, a lot of this makes sense. I literally last week talked about how people were acting during the snowstorm, running and buying up all the milk and eggs and bread, right? And it's because there's an overload of our prefrontal cortex that makes us rational and gives us rational sense. It becomes overloaded and you become irrational. And you make decisions that you wouldn't normally make because the thing that holds and controls the rational thought in your mind is gone.
Right.
You remember when they came out with those studies of all the football players, soccer players, boxers, professional wrestlers that somehow, some way either were committing suicide or had complete personality changes or became violent. And they said there is a correlation between brain damage and these actions. One of my favorite wrestlers of all time, Chris Benoit, was a God-fearing man. He used to sit up there and read the Bible, and not one of these fake Christians. The stories, I didn't know him personally, but the stories go They were holding Bible classes and not that fake, I hate everybody, love everybody. Nobody had a bad word to ever say about him.
Mm-hmm.
He killed his wife, child, and himself.
Yeah.
It came out of the blue. Nobody saw it coming.
Yeah.
They did a scan of his brain and said that he had the brain of an 80-year-old person suffering from severe dementia.
Mm-hmm.
So when Kanye says these things, and he says, well, this is the reason why I did that. You were like, why did he run to that symbol? He says it in the letter. He says, you get to a point in these stages of mania where
Mm-hmm.
you're right and everybody else is wrong. And people call you crazy so that you become more emboldened to
Mm-hmm.
prove that you're not. And I'm like, oh, yes, there is a pattern to all his behavior. And you said
Yeah.
2003 was the first time he started talking about these symbols of white
Mm-hmm.
nationalism and anti-Semitism. Once
Well,
again, when
according
was
to
it?
Rolling Stone reporting,
According to Rolling Stone. Once again, when was the car accident?
2002.
So the idea that he had brain damage, let me give you another example. This is personal, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Not me personal, but somebody I know.
Mm-hmm.
Got into 2 car accidents. They didn't have their seatbelt on.
Mm-hmm.
Rocked their brain.
Yeah.
I know for a fact they had a concussion the first time. When I saw him the second time, I was like, I think you got a second concussion. This person was so messed up in the head, they literally peed themselves. And in a panic, when they were house sitting, put on somebody else's clothes, not
Mm-hmm.
thinking, not calling or asking, just putting on somebody else's clothes. And when they told me the story, because they got fired from this job, when they told me the story, I was like, what were you thinking? And they're like, I don't know. I was just in a panic. And I was like, I really think you need to do a neurological scan because your actions lately have been forgetful, have been all over the place. And I know this is not you as a person. So the idea that Kanye does have brain damage that has affected his behavior,
Mm-hmm.
I believe that can be the case. I'm open to that
Yeah.
being the case, right?
Sure. Yeah. I'm not discounting the fact that what you're talking about is chronic traumatic encephalopathy. So CTE.
Right. I
And
wasn't going to try to say that.
it's linked to repeated head trauma. It can involve, mood swings, impulsivity, aggression, emotional instability. It can only be the diagnosis can only be confirmed after death, unfortunately. And so, yeah, there could be some overlap, right, in the symptomology, that could definitely complicate his case. Here is my issue.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I'm trying to get to. So he never explains the why. And let's just say he's just in a manic episode and he just gravitates toward that symbol. It's not the first time when he talks about putting it in his album art on clothing, right? That's not the first time that he referenced Hitler, Nazis, or made anti-Semitic comments. So this is, like I said, this is repeated and sustained behavior. He doesn't directly apologize again to the Jewish community. He emphasizes that he cannot recall many of his actions, which creates distance between himself and the harm. He, like I said, he does apologize to the Black community, and he says that he's not asking for a free pass, but the structure of the letter does something subtle. It frames nearly all of his behavior through the lens of illness. I was manic. I didn't know. I don't remember. My brain injury, my bipolar disorder. That is an explanation. That's not accountability. So bipolar I disorder is real. Mania can be devastating. Brain injuries can affect behavior. Mental illness can push people to do things that they would never do when they were, quote, well, right? But I also believe that harm done while mentally ill is still harm.
Join the conversation and follow the Unsolicited Perspectives podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your audio podcasts.